Long live your turtle here. In this video, I'm going to show you how to take this $15 plastic tote, just a regular old plastic bin, and make it into an awesome above tank basking platform. This project is very simple. You only need a few tools. Hopefully you already have them lying around. And it's an awesome addition for a pet turtle tank. Let's get to it. All right, first things first, I need to measure my tank to make sure I get all the sizing correctly. So I'm gonna remove the Turtle Basker 5500 Deluxe Edition that comes with an integrated nesting area. And then we'll get to building our very own DIY basking area. All right, before you go out and buy a bin, what you need to do is you need to measure your tank. Now I have a standard 75-gallon Aquarium aquarium. It's about 48.5 inches long, 18 3/8 inch wide, and it's got this brace right down the middle of the tank, and that's about 2 inches wide. So basically what I have is two open spaces, and I'm going to take advantage of that by creating a basking area that covers one half of my tank, and the other half of the tank will just be a standard glass cover for the tank where it's hinged. I can easily feed my turtles. I can slip filtration and stuff on the back side of it, just like any old aquarium can handle. So I'm gonna ignore this side and I'm gonna focus on just this side between my middle brace and the left edge of my tank. So if you have a different type of tank, just pay attention to what your dimensions are. Don't just go out and buy the same bin I have if your tank has different dimensions. It won't work that way. So what you need to focus on is you don't want a huge bin that's gonna overhang into the other half of our tank. You don't want one that's so small it's just gonna fall in without putting a lot of bracing on it. Do a little, do a lot of shopping around. Go to your Targets, your Walmarts, your other box stores that carry bins like this, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever's local to you. Find plastic bins and keep looking until you find one that will require the least amount of effort to make work with your space here. Now you'll notice I have an intake on this side of the tank. You could try to incorporate that into your design, but today I'm going to keep this really simple. We're not going to do that. I'm going to move my intake to the side of the tank that's going to have the standard glass canopy that I can easily change the back to accommodate lots of filters, because I got two Sun filters here pumping 800 gallons per hour. So a lot of filtration because I own a turtle. Now I also have this hidden LED light strip to light up what I previously had, that turtle basker over here, because it's going to be a dark side of the tank with the ramp and cover. It's still going to be that way with this new basker, so I'm going to actually just change where the wire is coming out so that it's not interfering with our new basker design. All right, check out the tote I got that's going to match your dimensions well. I'll show you in a second how it fits up to everything, but this is a 12-gallon Bright Room stackable heavy-duty latching tote, and this is medium size, I guess, so look for 23 15/16 long, 17 3/8 inches wide, and 10 1/8 inch high. Now let me put that on the tank real quick. You can see that it fits really well. Like this is pretty sturdy without me adding any sort of bracing or anything, because it kind of fits in the grooves here and just kind of slides in. Is it perfectly level? No, but you can't tell because it's such, this is just a good fit. I'm gonna have to do very little to make this sturdy and on the tank. So this is a great start for an easy DIY project, which I know a lot of you turtle owners are looking for. All right, a few materials that you'll need in addition to our tote, of course, is you're gonna wanna grab some reptile carpet. I just have this reversible Thrive habitat carpet that I picked up from any pet store. It's gonna have some sort of reptile carpet, so just go there and see if you like the design. This one's got two to pick from, so we've got some flexibility there. You're gonna need this. Now, next thing is just some zip ties. Just make sure you get some longer ones because we're gonna need the long ones for our application today. I picked up the thinnest and the smallest piece of acrylic that I could. This is just an optics brand that you can get from a hardware store, pre-cut. We're gonna have to cut it down a little smaller, but get the smallest one because you don't need a big sheet or anything. You just need a small one, and this can get really expensive the bigger you get, but this was literally only $5 or $6, so great deal. And the last thing that you're gonna need is a cooling rack. This set comes with two, but it was super cheap, and it's just mainstays, non-stick cooling racks. I think they got this from Walmart. The only important thing here is you want to get one that's going to match the dimensions that you need to create a screen cover for your bin. So really just telling you, measure before you just get any old cooling rack, because they come in all different sorts of sizes. Don't just get a random one. This one specifically is 16 by 9.8 inches. It's gonna work great with the tote that we have. All right, these are all the tools you're going to need for this project. Hopefully you already have these in your toolbox. Otherwise, you probably have a friend that has these in their toolbox. So first things first, I have this basic 2x4. I'm going to use this as a straight edge. Simple as that. Next thing I've got is this utility knife. This is a nice rugged utility knife. And just make sure the blade is nice and sharp because we're going to be cutting into some plastic with that. Next thing I've got is this acrylic scoring tool. And you're going to use this to score your acrylic so we can break it into smaller pieces. That's going to be our window later. Next thing, obviously you need a marker. That way you can mark your measurements out. Next thing, I got this square, and this is totally optional, and I just use it to make good straight lines and quick measurements. I have a hardy pair of scissors we're going to use to cut some reptile carpet. This is a heat gun, pretty straightforward. You don't need a super fancy one, but you do need enough power to get some heat. You can maybe use a hair dryer. I haven't tried it on a thin piece of acrylic. It might get you to the temperature you need to bend it. Next thing, need a tape measure. We're going to be measuring. You'll want a glue gun like this one. And this is just a standard glue gun with a standard size glue stick. I don't like the mini ones because those are a little bit slow to glue things. But if you have a mini one, you could definitely get away with that. Make sure you got a couple extra glue sticks to load up into that. Lastly, just some gloves for your hand protection because you're going to be using this knife real close to your hands. And that's it. Very straightforward with the tools. All right, first thing I want to work on is our tote. And what we're going to do first is we're going to cut out the top where our screen is going to go. So let me take one of the screens out of this package. You can see how this fits on top here. There are little grooves, little recesses in the tote, and it's kind of annoying, but we're going to try to make this as centered as possible. Now this is a very strong screen, so I can rely on the screen strength mostly for holding up my lamp that's going to sit right on top of this. I just need to make sure that I don't have the lamp over any plastic. So I need to get rid of enough plastic that this screen fits well, but I need to make sure that there's also enough structure so that the screen can't fall in and it's going to have enough to sit on, because this is just thin plastic, to be able to support the lamp itself. I know this metal is going to be plenty strong. So I'm going to cut out basically within this entire little recessed area. What we're going to use for that is a good old-fashioned sturdy utility knife. And if you've used your utility knife a lot and the blade's dull, I would suggest replacing the blade with something a lot stronger, because this is not that easy. You're not supposed to be just cutting holes in this plastic. So since you're going to be kind of digging a knife in here, sharp, be careful. I'm going to wear gloves. Here we go. All right, so now you can see with this opening, you can clean it up a little bit, but now I can fit, see these little, the drying rack has little feet on it, so it raises it off the counter when you put your nice toasty cookies on there. But I have this, so now it fits just barely in the opening. Look at that, it's not going anywhere. This is very secure, it's not gonna fall in very easily. So you don't need to worry about your turtle jostling this around and then, you know, your lamp going in there. That wouldn't be good. And also just made sure I got the most I could opened here so that the light, which is 8.5 inches, will just perfectly sit here without melting plastic, you know. You don't want any of that light lamp opening to be over any plastic because it will melt it. These heat lamps are very strong and very hot. Okay, now that that's done, let's take off the bottom of it. Now we're going to figure out how to fit this onto our tank. All right, so take the bottom of your basket, that's the lid of your tote. Let's think about what the layout's going to be for a turtle basking area. Of course, what you're going to need is a ramp that's going to be your access point for your turtle to get out of the water and over to a basking area where it's dry and under a heat lamp. So here, you want your ramp to go towards the longer side of your tank because you want your turtle to jump into the water and have a little bit of coasting area to slow down. You don't want to put the ramp going straight towards the side of the tank. Then they're going to jump in, hit their head right on the glass, and that's no fun for a turtle over and over and over again. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to design our ramp over here, have our basking area over here on the left near the edge of your tank, and the most important thing here is size it to the size of your turtle. If you have a smaller turtle and it's going to stay small, you can keep the ramp smaller and the opening smaller for them to get up to the basking area. But if you have a larger turtle, you need to make sure that the ramp is large enough that they can easily climb up, but you also need to make sure that the basking area is large enough for them to be comfortable under the heat lamp and not just teetering on the edge of the ramp where it's hard for them to kind of balance there. You want just a nice solid place for them to relax under that fake sun. All right, so now we need to design how big does the ramp and the opening need to be for your turtle to easily climb up and onto the basking area. I have a 7-inch red-eared slider. Her name's Harold, and she's not grown anymore. She's 10 years old. She's not going to get bigger, so I'm going to design around that in mind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make about a 10-inch ramp, and that's a generous-sized ramp. So 7 inches, that's an extra 1.5 inches on each side. That's pretty good. That's going to be very easy to climb, especially when we install the carpet on it. Very easy to get a grip of. The next thing is, how deep does the ramp need to be? Now, I prefer my tanks filled all the way to the top, which basically means my ramp needs to be probably 6 inches. It'll give about 5 inches in the water for your turtle to be able to climb up. And you especially want them to be able to get probably 3/4 of their body up on the ramp before they need to start climbing out of the water. So that 6-inch to 8-inch range is probably what you're shooting for the length of a ramp. So that's only going to take about 1/3 of the length of your whole basking area, which is good because that's going to leave plenty of flat basking area for your turtle to have a little bit of space to soak in those rays. So I'm going to do an 8-inch long ramp, so 8 inches in the length direction, by a 10-inch wide ramp. For generously wide and generously long so that I can ensure my turtle can make it up after all this work we put into the basking area. All right, for this part, I'm going to have something to cut on. I don't want to cut into my table. I just went to the dump, so I have no flat cardboard, so I'm going to use whatever this packaging cardboard is. All right, and a straight edge is just going to help you here because it's going to look nicer the straighter it is. Fair warning, this is a very important step that you don't want to mess up, because if you do mess up, you're going to need to get a new tote lid, and if you need a new lid, you need a new full tote. They don't just sell lids for you. So what's really important here is that you are cutting 3 lines that can't be chiseled in. They need to be as straight as you can make them, and you don't want to just cut out a big chunk here, because what we're going to do is we're going to cut those 3 lines. You're going to have a loose flap on one side. That's going to be your ramp, and we're going to bend that ramp so it needs to be a part of the center here. You're not going to make a cut down the center. You're going to make a cut on the side, and then the edge here, not down the center. Do not cut this way. We're going to be making a bend here, so it's going to be a ramp. All right, what I'm going to do now is mark off what size I want. This acrylic sheet is actually 11 inches, so I'm just going to go with that for the width. I know I said it was 10. All right, so you see our mark there. Be very careful here. All right, there you go. Do not push on this too hard, it'll snap. This is where we're gonna have a little fun and bend it. All right, so now I'm gonna set this up so we can bend it, which means I need to elevate one side. See if I can just utilize this stuff. All right, I sort of MacGyvered a type of jig here, just using some random things I had lying around to make sure that you have an area where this can bend along a straight line, which is my 2x4 here. Support on this side so things can't move around. Support on the back so I can put this random extra tile I had lying around. Just try to get something that's heat proof, because that's where we're going to apply our heat for our bend. I'm going to line up the edge here to be right on the edges of where we cut to. Now we have a straight edge to apply heat to. Now grab your heat gun. I don't know if a hair dryer will be hot enough for this, but you could try it if you don't have one. I'm not going to promise anything. Melting plastic is in no way healthy for you, so I have to suggest that you wear a respirator of some sort so you're not breathing in toxic fumes. If you do happen to melt it, make sure all your pieces here are straight so that when you bend this, it bends in a straight line. And just apply heat back and forth. You're just going to slowly start heating up the joint that you're going to create for your bends. And this is thin plastic, so it shouldn't take too much to start bending this. And what we're going to shoot for is like 30-ish, 40 degrees. Something easy for a turtle to climb, but also goes deep enough into the water that they can access it without having to jump out of the pool. You all know how hard that is. Try to bend it, so got a little too much heat there, started melting it. Don't do that. Let go, see where it goes to. Okay, that's all right. All right, turn the heat off once things start bending. Just kind of hold it where you want. Turtles can climb pretty steep things, so don't be too nervous about how steep it is. I'm gonna apply a little more heat here. All right, so took a couple passes there. Just be patient with it. Keep trying to get it to bend, but don't just dump all the heat on there because you're going to melt it and it's going to deform it too much. You can already see it's a little deformed, but that's going to be good. So that's a good steepness, and we're going to add some reinforcing zip ties there. So yeah, this is floppy and it wouldn't be able to hold a heavy turtle, but we're going to add a little reinforcement. Don't worry about that. Just make sure you got a good ramp because it's going to go in the water. Your turtle needs to have access to climb up it. All right, next step here is we are going to be gluing down our reptile carpet. So this comes in a roll, has two different little designs here. You got this weird kind of camo-y green or just flat green. All right, once everything is cut to size and you're happy with how it's gonna fit, we're gonna glue it down. So what we're just gonna use is standard glue gun. And this can get kind of hot since you're gonna be pressing with your fingers and pinching through felt with a heat gun glue. So just be careful. If you need gloves, feel free to use them here. Don't be shy. But what I'm gonna do is especially concentrate on the edges of everywhere this carpet's gonna go, just to make sure you have good adhesion, but you also wanna get the center too. So what I'm gonna start with is just a bead along this top edge here where we bent it to get everything a good start. Gotta work a little fast with hot glue so it doesn't dry on you. If you really wanted to get creative, you could just not add this carpet at all and put a tile up here. I was a little bit too thin on the basking area for a 12-inch tile to fit. I would probably need another inch or so. So I think if you had a smaller turtle, you could actually get a full 12-inch tile over here, or you could cut a tile and make it fit. That way it's a nice looking tile platform instead of just this carpet. I'm gonna keep going on the platform part. And like I said, I'm gonna really focus on the edges and then get a little bit on the middle as well. All right, so you have that reptile mat all glued down to your ramp and basking platform. Just try to pick it up on the corners, make sure nothing's loose. You got everything adhered, just solid on there, because your turtle's gonna find these weak spots and start tearing, and it'll be very annoying to fix once it's all wet. Next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna take those zip ties we were talking about earlier. So what I'm using is the 11-inch ones. These are the longest ones I have in that little box of zip ties. You're just gonna need 2 of them, and what these are going to basically do is provide extra reinforcement to your really flimsy ramp. This is so flimsy. If you have a turtle with any weight, it's gonna bend when they try to climb it and can become really steep to impossible to climb up to the basking platform. So you don't want that with all this work you put into it. You want to have something that's functional for your turtle. So what we're going to do is add these zip ties to reinforce our ramp. So all you need to be aware of here is your zip tie is 11 inches, but it also has to become a loop like this. So you probably have more like 3.5 inches to work with. So just kind of gauge where 3.5 inches is. We'll be a little conservative here. So I'll be about 5 inches down from where I started the bend on my ramp to make sure that you have enough to make this loop here and to engage the zip. So what I'm just going to do is measure out 5 inches. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking our utility knife and creating a little tiny slit that's big enough for our zip tie to fit through. That's not right on the edge because that could cause a crack pretty quickly after any sort of use of this ramp with the turtle. But you also want it to be close enough that when you make this loop, it's going to be a pretty sharp edge, because you don't want just like this really big loop that's going to look pretty bad. You want it to be as slim as you can. So we're going to go about probably 3/8 of an inch in. So now very carefully with your utility knife, find your mark and just make... All right, so using this utility knife to try to get a little slit in there to get our zip ties through proved a little difficult, and I don't want to force it too much. I'm sure you could, but we have other tools in store that are very common as well, and that is your standard power drill with a 3/16 inch drill bit and a little bit of painter's tape, just for some security. That helps with drilling holes through plastic to prevent cracking. Since we're going to be kind of close to the edge here, I just want to be careful that we don't overdo it. All right, and then we're going to do the same thing up at the top here. You're just going to line it up vertically, wrap that around, get your tape in there, avoid cracking. This isn't exact science. I'm not getting perfect dimensions or anything, showing just how easy this is. All right, so the last thing I want to do here, I'm going to put the portion of the zip tie where it all locks in underneath the ramp where it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, because you'll be able to see this top area. I think I like where it is. That's a good steepness. And look how much stronger it is now. That can hold a lot of weight. All right, that's it for the ramp and platform area. All right, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add a little viewing window so that we can see our beautiful turtle basking away in their brand new basker. So what we're gonna be using is this small acrylic sheet. We're gonna cut it to size so that it fits in this little recessed area. So this will totally depend on the bin you get, because this one has this little recessed area here that leaves us, you know, like 5 or 6 inches. And you really can't go beyond that, otherwise it won't fit very well, since we're basically gonna be gluing this from the inside to the edges of your cutout that you're gonna make. So this is going to be a pretty small viewing window. It could be a little bit different depending on what tote you use. So the first thing you want to do is figure out how big this viewing window can be and how big is your sheet. You just want to make sure that you have at least 1/2 inch that you can glue on your window to the actual bin itself. That way you have some sort of surface area that's adhering the window to the plastic, because if you cut too much of either, you're not going to have enough and there's going to be gaps and it's going to look bad. So just make sure that you measure everything out and lay it all out before you start cutting either of these. All right. All right, so I've decided to make this a 7x7 window, and if you want to use a straight edge here, I just happen to have this perfect straight edge called a square that goes 7 inches. All right, acrylic is fun to work with, very easy. You're gonna need one tool that's called a scoring tool that looks like this, very cheap. And this window is totally optional, so if you're not comfortable with any of this, just skip ahead to the final assembly of our basker here. But I like the little window just so I can see in. So what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna get a nice straight edge like this 2x4 you saw before. Thought you were done with it. Nope. Take your scoring tool on a nice flat surface here, and you're just gonna go all the way down, putting a lot of pressure down, because you wanna make sure this thing cracks on that line. Now this is thin acrylic, so this will be easy. The only thing you need to make sure you're doing is getting to the edge with the scoring tool, because sometimes you don't go all the way to the edge and it'll just crack strangely there. And then what you're going to do is just going to grasp this side and the other side, and you're just going to bend it right along the edge of your nice sturdy table. It's going to snap, and now you have two pieces. It's got the plastic there, so be careful now you don't have your plastic. But now, do the same thing. Score your other line. And then again. That didn't crack very well. That's okay though, because this is going to be glued and you won't be able to see the edge. That just means I didn't score enough, so score more. All right, this part is very important. So you're going to be taking your window and you're now going to be cutting out the actual bin wall so that your window will fit in it. Now your window will be installed on the inside, so you need to make sure that you have at least, I would say 3/8 of an inch around the edge here of overlap where you don't. So cut in 3/8 of an inch. That way you have something to glue your window to. It's not just going to float there. All right, so I marked out where I need to cut with dashed lines, using my window as a reference for everything. And then you can just double check that you have enough surface area to glue on your window. Once you cut along those lines, just make sure the lines are within the window. All right, now we're gonna take our window and you're gonna peel off that last plastic. And what we're gonna do, get your old glue gun back in action, flip it over, and you're gonna put a little bead of glue along the edge. All right, you made it this far. There's no stopping you now. Let's install the ramp, the screen, and rock and roll. So flip over that part of the bin, take your lid, install it, clip those together, take your top, get in there, and there you have it. Your basket is all done. Time to put it in the tank. There you have it, folks. I just missed grabbing the camera. Harold had climbed herself right up there really quickly. She's used to these above tank basking platforms, but it's very accessible. We've designed this one to fit a larger turtle like Harold here, who's 7 inches. You could go even a little bigger with a tote design like this. This was an under $40 project. Very simple tools, very easy to do yourself. As you can see, the screen top is perfect to fit the basking lamp. The lamp isn't over any plastic, so it's not going to melt anything. And it sits right on top of our mesh screen here. And this design is pretty versatile. It can hold a lot of different types of lighting. This is a mercury vapor bulb and a deep dome light fixture. And you got this whole side of the tank that you can easily access. This is quite sturdy. This is not going anywhere. Fits really well in there. And just a lot of space for your turtle to climb up that ramp and bask. And look at that. My favorite thing, if you've ever watched my channel, I will always tell people to fill their tank to the top and put an above tank basking platform on their tank. Optimize your turtle's living space. Now, if that seemed like a lot of work to you and you're not comfortable building something like this, or you just don't really like the look of it, head over to the Long Live Your Turtle Etsy store and check out the turtle basker that I sell there. It's elegant, it's clean, easy to build. You know what? Just go check it out in my Etsy store, see what you think. Check out the reviews. Thanks for watching, and long live your turtle.